3, 2, 1.
Happy New Year!
I'm eternally bored. This is episode 25, our quarter away to 100. All right. And we have a very special episode today. We have the best and worst of 2018. Unlike those other podcasts out there, we don't mind taking a stand against negative games. So we will be dumping on some of our least favorites, but also praising our favorites of the year.
Make gaming great again.
I really appreciate you bringing both the best and worst guest on to join you in this venture. So
Yes, we're back with Ben, the most critical gamer. Actually, you should start a blog. Just like what's the most critical gamer, where you just dump on games.
yeah, critical. I mean, like critical in the sense of important, because I'm a very important gamer.
That is true.
So, how do you feel about 2018 overall?
You want to go first or should I?
Oh, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
If I had to sum up this year in one word, I would say garbage. I was trying to make a top 3 list, and I made 3 games, and I was like, wow, that was really easy. Now I don't have any more games I have to add to this. And I went through 20 pages of the top-rated games from this year, so either there's good stuff that came out that I didn't play, or it's just a really tough year, but overall, nothing.
Yeah, I have to sort of concur. There was not really... Oh, I'll say this. At the very top end, I found a few games that I really did enjoy quite a bit. A number of them, though, were not groundbreakingly new, but they were sort of like offshoots of established popular games, which is good. You know, I like it when designers can show that they can continue, you know, something that they've done before, make something good in the family, or adapt an existing design of some other person and personalize it to themselves. But overall, in terms of like all brand new games, not a lot was, you know, I had a lot more disappointments than I had actual, really, you know, revelation type of games.
Yeah, I'm with Charles. I don't think the year was garbage by any means, because there were actually quite a few games that I rated an 8, but I didn't rate any single game a 9 or a 10 this year, and I usually rate at least a couple of 9s, if not a 10. So I definitely would say this is a mediocre year. I know a lot of people have been saying that. I'm not just going along with what everybody's saying, but I do think that's accurate. I don't think there's been any like games that have blown me away this year. There's been a lot of good games, which is why I don't think it was a bad year.
I think mediocre might be a little bit strong. I mean, there's decent games, but mostly there were a lot of very not creative games, and just like the river all over again, where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you followed the rules of a Euro game, but you didn't make anything fun. So,
but here's why I think I would say mediocre instead of bad is that I didn't have any like bad games. Like there was only a few games that I'll be mentioning very shortly that I think were truly bad. So yeah, I think a lot of the Euro games I played this year were uninspired, to say the least, but I don't think many of them were like objectively bad or aggressively bad, I would say.
Yeah, I sort of had the opposite problem where, you know, it was easy for me to make a top 3, but the bottom 3 was the hard part. I was like, how do I fit all these negative games, all these terrible games in this list of 3?
Well, I think the one thing that 2018 will stand out overall will be its year of volume. It sort of was a year that continued the growth of the hobby industry, and we've seen a number of new games come out, a ton of expansions. I remember it was a time when expansions were rare, and this year I felt like every game had at least one expansion. If it had been released in the 2017 or 2016, it was like a late running expansion, and it just was a lot. There were a number of games and expansions out there. Whether they were good, sometimes not, but usually, you know, at least they were average.
Even the expansions of this year are not the greatest, but I mean, there were some that were okay. But I'm a big expansion person. Like I tend to keep, like, this is all my board games basically behind me, and there's a small pile in the corner of unplayed games. But I try to keep a small collection, so I much prefer to buy expansions to games that I know that I like than spending money on new games. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we all soon have similar opinions. Ben's a little more negative. A little more
Surprise!
Yeah.
Surprise!
I know, I'm usually considered the most positive gamer, but in this case I just had to make an exception. So.
All right, well, let's jump into bottom 3, starting with dishonorable mentions. Charles, you want to give yours?
So, my dishonorable mention is more of a disappointment, and I guess that disappointment for me was Minerva. It came out with a big Kickstarter deluxe edition type of deal. It was by a designer I really like. I always forget his name, Yoshizaka Hanoi, but he did Yokohama and things of that nature. And I know it had been released before it got re-released, and I didn't get a chance to play it in 2016. But 2018 was the year I'm like, okay, well they're remaking it in America, it should be good. It just was, it's okay. It's another one of these indicative games, but for such a big deluxe treatment of a game that already exists, I expected maybe some tweaks or some upgrades. It's basically just the same game and not much else. You lay tiles in a row, you score points, you try to make your longest roll, and go from there.
It's been done.
All right. Any dishonorable mentions for you?
No dishonorable mentions for me.
The list was too long, I guess. So I don't have my dishonorable mentions. I kind of took Charles's route. I didn't put games that I actually didn't like. I actually put a bunch of games that I would recommend and I think are good games, but I expected all of these games to be rated 8 or higher, but they didn't quite hit the mark for me. First is a game we played yesterday, which is a legacy game, Betrayal Legacy. This is, again, a disappointment. I plan to finish the campaign. I think it's a good game. I had a lot of fun, but it has too many major problems for me to consider it a great game, so it fell a little short for me. And I'm mainly calling it overrated because the ratings on BGG for this game are insane. It's 8.5 or some craziness. Yeah, it's definitely better than Betrayal on House of the Hill, and I don't really like Betrayal, but I like legacy games so much that this kind of elevates it for me. But it still has some of the main problems of Betrayal, which is the rules are poorly written. So you're constantly this is very ambiguous, and because all the different haunts and scenarios are different, there's no easy hard and fast rule oh, this is easy to look up and it's consistent because every haunt is so different. So you basically need an FAQ for each haunt, and the rules are just badly written. I don't know what happened to Rob Davio, but he just forgot how to write rule books. The Seafall rule book was a freaking nightmare, and this is even worse. So yeah, rule book problems. The game is an experience game. It's kind of on autopilot. There's not a lot of deep strategy. Basically, just experiencing the game, which is fun. Again, I like the game, but you don't really make that many strategic decisions. It's more like an experience. And then the last thing is player elimination, which is we need to get rid of player elimination in modern board games, especially ones that last this long. 3 of the 4 scenarios I died in. I died first, and I was just basically out of the game for 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to say who was responsible for killing you, but they did a great job.
This guy right here killed me all 3 of those times.
To be fair, after the 3rd or 4th time, it just gets funnier and funnier.
So yeah, so I'm just sitting there waiting for them to finish the scenario so that I can join back in. I mean, it's just they need to be some mechanic where you come back as a ghost and influence the game in some way or something. But to just eliminate a player for a long stretch of time is inexcusable. So overall, good game, but way too many major problems.
I'm glad you got to watch it for hours on end.
Seriously.
I have a similar feeling about it. The game itself is kind of fun and seeing what's going to happen, and there's a little bit of an experience. But my biggest issue with the game is if you boil it down to its core, it's who can roll higher on a set of dice and who randomly draws better cards, and that is the main mechanism of the game. So, as Trey said, it's a very, very low choice game. I will probably also finish it because I want to see what happens, but yeah, I can't imagine after I go through all the campaign playing it ever again. Because it's just very, very luck heavy.
Yeah, the legacy elements are definitely pulling me through because I want to see what other crazy things are in the box.
Yeah, but that tends to be, unfortunately, most legacy games just have that general problem. They spend so much time on, the story, they forget about the mechanics, or they don't adapt the mechanics fast enough as the story is going. But
yeah, well, I know. I feel like Pandemic Legacy did a pretty good job of balancing the mechanics and also creating interesting stories.
I agree, but as we have seen, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and Season 2 are the exceptions to the general rule. So, Matt Laycock, shout out.
Yeah, he provides a good balance, I think, to Rob Davio. But shout out to Rob Davio, too, for coming up with the legacy thing, because I do think it's an awesome mechanic, and I'd like to see it used in better ways. Rising Sun, it was, the most beautiful game I've ever played, probably. It has some really good mechanisms. I love the action draft that you do. I love the alliance system. So it has some, really good ideas behind it, but cannot be a great game because of the battle system. It is like blind bidding, which I think is probably the worst mechanic ever in board games. I think it's worse than roll and move, to be honest. So it's blind bidding, combat, and it's just really bad. I hated the combat system. So like everything about the game is a 10 except for the combat system, which I would rate like a 1 or a 2, and that just brings down the average too much for it to be a good game. Feudum, which had a lot of great ideas, but again needed an editor. It had like no development, just had too much chaff that needed to be cut. And Everdell, which we talked about last time, I think again a beautiful game. It had some really interesting ideas, but like overall it just needed more development, ways to mitigate some of the luck problems in that game.
I like how Trey's like, oh no, this year's mediocre. It wasn't bad, and he's like, here's the list of all these dishonorable mentions.
Yeah, dishonorable mentions.
No, these are overrated. They're not dishonorable.
You went too far. All right.
These are all good
That's
games.
another contradiction here.
Right.
I just think they have problems. All right, so bottom 3, Charles.
Well, since you mentioned Everdell, let's jump back on it.
Everdell.
I'm moving it from 2 to 3, but it doesn't really matter where it is. It's ultimately, what did you call it, Ben? Yes. This is a disaster. And I'm winning the game, and I don't even want to finish it. Type of deal.
Everdell, more like ever smell bad.
Yeah, I mean, it looks so
was a
good.
stretch.
I think there's some fundamental design decisions in the game that just make it just wonkily, unbalanced.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can tell you exactly what the design decision is.
Yeah.
But there's 2 things. One, and I think we talked about this in the BGG episode too. One is the fact that you have a hand of cards, but you can also build from a public row, so there's no reason to ever use the cards in your hand. And the other is that the fact that whenever you build an expensive building, it lets you get a free dude who lives there for free. And that just makes a runaway leader problem that is unpalatable.
I think when talking about the chain, like it has an like in Seven Wonders, where if you have a prerequisite building, you can build another building for free instead of like the insanely high cost, and that's just problematic because it just like if that card comes up in your hand or in the public row, you're golden. If it doesn't, well, that sucks.
Yeah, especially if you already have the card in hand and then suddenly it gets top decked into the public row.
Oh, yeah.
You build
Top
the one
deck
in
is
the
that game.
you build the one in the public row and you just sort of wait till your turn and you just build the other one. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I liked it more than them, but it's still not a great game.
yeah.
All right,
So-
Ben.
I have a 3-way tie for my number 3. So it depends on dishonorable mentions instead of dishonorable mentions. So Western Legends, Root, and Rising Sun. Got a tie for the bottom 3 because they all have the same essential problem, which is horribly unbalanced card decks. They just made these card decks and they're like, we're going to make some cards just significantly more powerful than other cards. Yeah. And if people draw those cards, they win. And if they don't, then I guess they lose. And why would you want to have choice in your game?
Now, I can
all
speak
3 of
on
these.
this with Western Legends. Okay, here's a design decision. If you're playing a game and it's based on poker, don't make the aces be your best card by hand and your best card by power. It gives them too much versatility.
Strictly speaking, the kings are stronger than the aces, but just barely.
Yeah, make your 2s and 3s have some good powers and just be, ultimately disposable because it's what people want to do with them, and make your aces and kings just,
And the same thing with Root, where there's like cards that are like, oh, I play this card as a reaction when you attack me, I'll automatically kill 2 of your guys. Even though in average combat you kill between 1 and 3. So just add 2 to that, because I randomly drew this card. And then Rising Sun, I mean, just the way, the way those cards, and granted you can draft them to some extent, but the way that some cards just give you an astronomical number of points over other cards, it's not fun. Balance your card decks, designers. I demand it.
I actually like all 3 of those games, but I would agree that they all have problems, and luck of the draw is definitely a problem in all 3 of the games. All right, my number 3 is Discover Lands Unknown. So that is a game that also happens to you. It's an experience game, but unlike Betrayal Legacy, it's not interesting enough to make me want to play it again. It's just a very basic exploration game, and I really like exploration, but that game just, I don't know, it's too basic. They stripped, there's games that sometimes get overdeveloped and too streamlined, and that is an example. They took all the fun out of the game while making it, and now it's just I wander around the wilderness and I find a hatchet or something, and then I gain a wood, and I make a fire and I cook a squirrel or whatever. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually on my list later, so I'm going to talk about it in a bit, but I think you're overstating how interesting it is, because I didn't get to cook a squirrel.
Oh god.
I mean, I bought the game. It almost made my own list. It's definitely one of the most disappointing games I bought this year. I plan to try to do more than the introductory scenario, but as you can see, the people I played the introductory scenario with were so laconically bored that they could not finish it. It didn't help that I had to leave for an emergency reason that same day, and I couldn't finish the introductory scenario, and
Oh, sure, emergency reason. We all buy that, Charles. You're just trying to get out of that game.
I'm sure you could get it played.
I had to go to the airport, if I remember correctly. Pick up some
Cafe
games.
Express, but yeah, you don't really have to. You can just get rid of it.
Yeah, you could also burn it. I mean, why subject that to other people in the world? That's just
Yeah.
cruel, man.
Sadly, my worst indictment of the game is the fact that during the math trade when it first came out, I put it up and someone asked me about it, and I made an agree. I talked to a guy who owned a copy of Discover, and I was like, okay, well maybe after we finish playing the scenario, we can do what the designers intended and trade each other's copies of the game so we have new and different games. And he said, no, I just wanted to get rid of it. So.
And I'm kind of intrigued by the concept. Like, if they could make a good game where, like, it's meant to be traded, like, once you've played through the campaign. Like, that's an interesting way to do campaigns, instead of, like, having the same campaign in every box where it's one and done, and then you're stuck with this game you have to sell to someone or give it away. I think that would be a really cool thing you could do if it had a good game.
I mean, and the
Maybe
funny
one
part
day.
is, it has all the good things that you want in the Legacy game. And, like, they had good marketing. They set up some of the characters, what they were trying to do. You can go to the webpage and
I
you
love
get
there's
the
different
rules.
characters in every box. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
You can see, like, their concept and everything around it is fine. And it's because of the Legacy game, you can't see playthroughs. You're not supposed to. And when you get to it, the execution is just bad. So,
Okay. Number 2, Charles.
All right. Well, my original number 2 was going to be Everdell, and my original number 3. We're on number 2 now, right?
Yeah.
The whole system is ruined.
Yeah. So I just found these this year, but it's sort of indicative of a lot of 2018. So I want to be specific. It's the Orleans promo tiles on BGG.
That's very specific.
Deep cut right there.
It's a deep cut. Okay. The reason why is because, I had a friend who he's like, you gotta play with these tiles. I'm like, okay, sure. I'll give these tiles a chance if you have a complete set and I do not. Well, there's 2 types of promos that are on BGG. There are the promos that just didn't fit or were promotionals to get you in the game. And then there were the promos that were edited out because they were too powerful and broke the game. But since we can make more money, we'll just put them out as a promo. We couldn't put them in an actual game because our game would get trashed, but as a promo to a popular game, they might be good. I mean, plus the art's already finished. That is the Orleans promos. There are 4 of them, and they are all game-breakingly good. Okay, so if you have a system and if you want to, the game, Orleans' biggest flaw is that it has technology tiles, and some of the technology tiles are good and alter the game. If you want to crank that up to 100, then go ahead and get these promo tiles. They will break your game in ways unknown and make the technology track, basically essential in order to compete.
Charles, sounds like you had a really good time playing that game.
I mean, I'm just like, wow, I didn't know it did that and didn't know it was in there. So.
Charles' second worst game is literally 4 tiles. I'm just restating that.
That's just how many expansions there were this year.
16 tiles.
Oh, 16 tiles.
Oh, that's a world. Thick 16
Wow.
tiles.
Yeah,
That's
They
four
made
squared.
16 bad tiles.
So
That's-
there's 16 of them, and they're parts 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each of them costs $5. So it's like a $20 to get be a completionist. And don't complete, just let it go.
Don't complete. Let it die.
Sometimes you gotta say no to expansions. It's true.
All right. Ben.
All right, my number 2 is a game that Elisa got us to play, and just after we started playing it, she told us it was one of those free games
On BGG.
on BGG, and this game is called Push.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this till I was looking through my list. I was like, man, I completely blacked out the memory of this game because of how dumb it was.
It took me like a minute, like sitting
Right.
there trying to remember this game.
So here's the game. You have a card deck with cards of different colors and numbers on them. You flip cards up from it until you choose to stop or you hit a duplicate. If you hit a duplicate, then other people get cards. If you don't, then you get cards and other people get cards. The problem with the game is the thing they put in there also is this card that has a little picture of a die symbol on it. And whenever you collect that, you roll a die, and if it matches a color of a card you have, you lose all of that color. So basically, you are essentially randomly getting cards, randomly rolling dice, and randomly losing some portion of those cards.
Great game.
It is.
Definitely a skill-based game.
You know, at this point in my career as a gamer, it's not a professional career, I have gotten pretty good at looking at a game and being like, maybe I shouldn't play this, but I got fooled into this one, and
She had
now I
so much
remember why.
enthusiasm. She needs to curb that enthusiasm.
I just can't.
Yeah.
Push.
It's a great
Push
game.
it away.
It's not a great game. Alright, so my number 2, I'm not going to talk much about it because I dumped that on in the last podcast, but it's Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. Very interesting story, very interesting premise, but like the gameplay itself, basically 0 decisions. Like there's a slight bit of push your luck, but that's basically it. So it's like they took a really cool concept, but like the bones of it, the mechanics, not good. So yeah, that's my number 2. Charles, number 1 worst game.
Founders of Gloomhaven.
I haven't even played this yet. I want to play it so bad. It's like, you hate watch things. I want to hate play this game.
See, I don't. I really do not want to ever play this game. It just sounds horrible.
So, let's see. People have played Gloomhaven before.
Sure.
One thing about Gloomhaven that you know is that it's sort of slow at times, and your turns can grind to a halt. This is a designer decision, but in a co-op game, it's sort of okay. It's not the greatest. It's one of Gloomhaven's biggest flaw. Now, put that in a Euro game, and then, on top of it, put a Puerto Rico type system where I choose my action and everyone gets to do a more restrictive version of my action. If I do a certain action that scores points, then we have to trace a path to see which of these players I'm with scores points off of my action in a daisy chain, and then after all those point scorings are done, he gets to do the same thing, and he gets to do the same thing, and then it's his turn to do the same.
That's one action?
That was one action.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
good.
we are just obliterating time frames here. I'm not even going to talk about the blocking, some other poor decisions that they've made in the game. The game looks fine. It has some Gloomhaven cards that I can't even remember if I gave away. It didn't matter. Game's not good. You can't play it.
Wait, there's Gloomhaven cards in the box?
There were Gloomhaven cards in the back.
Why didn't you give them to me?
Because I wanted to trade it away complete, which I did.
Oh, man.
Founders of Gloomhaven, more like floundered
Yeah, don't worry.
of Gloomhaven.
Don't worry. After I traded my game, it was available for $20 on Amazon because people who played it, and then they're like, "Oh my god, it's bad." So
When it hits $10, I'm buying it just to get those Gloomhaven cards.
That's
it's
great.
like one card for the city,
Oh. Okay, no.
and if you find someone who hasn't used their particular card, they can give you one of the cards because it's a variable scenario on how you end the city or something like that.
Alright. Ben.
Alright, my number 1 worst game, as mentioned previously, Discover Lands Unknown. I'm not going to say too much about it because we've already, I think, sufficiently destroyed it. I'm just going to say my favorite part of the game, which was, let's go look at all these caves in the map. What's into this cave? You find nothing. Okay, well what about this cave? You find nothing. Okay, what about these 4 other caves? They also all have nothing on them. So imagine an exploration game where you search in 6 caves and literally it says there's nothing here in that cave. That's
Couldn't
it.
quite figure that one out.
That's it.
I thought it was just something to do with the introductory scenario. Maybe it is. We'll have to play.
Why would you do that to me, game designer? Why do you hate your players?
At least let me find a painting or something.
Discover Lands Unknown.
Alright. Well, my worst game, it's actually not the worst game I played this year. That would be 2 nothing card games that I don't feel are worth my ire. One was Push, and the other one was Fool, which I said was my worst game in BGG Con, which it was.
Fooled me, Friedman Freeze.
I didn't purchase it, so he didn't fool me, but he fooled me into playing it, which was bad enough. But my most hated game besides these 2 was Villainous. Again, I dumped on it so much on the previous episode, I'm not going to rehash too much, but literally the card I needed to start my path to victory was on the bottom of my deck. So while I got to watch everyone else play the game, I was just milling. occasionally I would dump on someone who was taking the lead, trying to balance things out. But mainly I was just milling my deck so I can get to this card so I can start on my path to victory. Meanwhile, other people are like finishing their path to victory and winning the game. So yeah, I'm like I want to load up every copy of Villainous and shoot it into the sun. Like that's how frustrating that game was.
Curious game. The only way to win is not to play.
And the problem is like most of the game mechanics are good, but like they have to do something where you can like search your deck or something. I mean, like imagine playing the exact same game of Villainous, but instead of that card being at the bottom of my deck, it was on the top of my deck, and I could start on my path to victory right away. I mean, like that's just so game changing. Instead of milling my deck for 60 minutes, I could start playing the game.
So Trey, obviously the strategy that you didn't understand is you have to cheat in that game.
So
You have to make sure the card is on the top, and then you'll win.
Clearly just
now, admittedly, the thing with Villainous, that is true. But it's for two characters, and it's a very interesting game. I'll defend Villainous. It's not as bad as you
Yeah,
think.
a real villainous apologist over here.
Oh yeah, but you can have like, stuff like that where things are on the bottom of your deck and you get hate on too much. I mean, it is supposed to be a quick take that game sort of design for families. It says it can play 6. It really is probably best with 3 or 4.
Yeah. We had 6, and 2 people dropped out, and the game started moving a lot faster.
So
Still a bad game, but definitely don't play it with 6 ever.
Clearly that's for 0.
And I actually do think it is. Actually, I'm looking forward to the expansion. I think it's fixable, but we'll see if they bother to. So.
Alright, so those are our worst games of the year. So how about some better news? Let's go to our best games of the year. I guess we'll do it in reverse order, starting with
you.
My honorable mentions, I just have 2. So I have 5 games that I'm going to talk about today, and they're the 5 games that I rated an 8. So everything else I played this year was 7 and below. So again, not a great year, but I really did enjoy these 5 games. The 2 honorable mentions, Detective Modern Crime board game, is... I talked about it a lot already, but basically it's like a Sherlock Holmes style game where you're like actually playing as a detective trying to solve a case, and so like there's not a bunch of gameplay mechanisms. It's more like here's
We're
a
like
bunch
doing
of
a job,
Yeah, it's like you're doing a job, but I really enjoyed it. It's not for everyone, so if you like Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, I think you will like this game. If you didn't like Sherlock Holmes, you probably will not. It adds more mechanisms, like it makes it more of a game than Sherlock Holmes was, but not enough to change your mind. The other one that I really liked is also a deduction game, but a very different one. It's an abstract game called Cryptid. Basically, you're like trying to... I don't even know how that game works, but somehow they like made an algorithm where like you can play with hidden information and you're trying to find a certain spot on a map, and you can use different clues to narrow it down. The one stipulation I would say is like I know there's 2 schools of thoughts, and it actually says in the rulebook you can write down things to help your deduction. I will never play that way. In fact, if I ever play this game again, I think playing with a timer would make the game a lot better, because it's meant to be like a short, fast deduction game, but if you sit there and eliminate every possibility manually, your turn can last 5 minutes easily, because there's a lot to process. The game they played with his wife wrote down everything, and the game took like over an hour, and it's meant to be like a 20-30 minute game. So I will not play with writing things down. I don't think how it's meant to be played. It's meant to be like a light-hearted deduction game. So those are my honorable mentions. Ben, do you have any?
No honorable mentions for me.
Charles?
I have 2. The first is Spring Meadow by Uwe Rosenberg.
Ooh, I need to play that game.
Yeah, it's okay.
This game is Tetris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Tetris.
It's the perfect Tetris board game. Your feelings on Tetris will determine your love for the game.
Have you played number 9 yet?
I haven't played number 9 yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But,
good number 9. Or like number... No.
yeah. But
I like number 9.
even Ben cannot hate on this game because it is.
I mean, it has a little bit of a runaway leader problem, but...
So does Tetris. So there you go.
I mean, yeah, maybe it does. But yes, it's very pure.
Yeah, it's a very pure 4-player Tetris game. If you really like Tetris, you like it. It builds off of the system of Cottage Garden, where you go around and select polynomial pieces and cover things with them. You score points. You score 10 points per line, and then your top uncompleted line scores points as well. And you do it until someone wins 2 rounds, and then the game is over. I mean,
I know it's not as boring as it sounds, but it's close.
It's Tetris. I mean, I don't know what to say. It is. I love it quite a bit because I really like Tetris a lot. It's really good for.
I really want to play it. I like Tetris games.
Yeah, it's good for new players. I mean, you're not rewriting the wheel here. Just good Tetris game. My second game almost made my top 3. A stupid game made it in, but the stupid game keeps following me. But
That's a great stupid game.
yeah. So it's Welcome to Centerville, and Welcome to Centerville is one of Chad Jensen's games.
Oh, I haven't played that.
And basically, it's sort of like building a city using action selections from dice. And there's like 4 quadrants of the city, and each of you competes for these quadrants. And in addition, there's like 3 or 4 other areas, and you're just trying to, there's a number of ways to score points in the game, but it all comes together pretty well. The timer for the game is actually on the dice, and for each player's turn, depending upon whether they roll good or not, it'll advance 1 or 2 spots, and there's like 36 spots in the whole timer.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was from this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was this year.
Yeah, it's not a bad game. I mean, it's very close to the game Raw Dice, but it's a slightly more complex version. It works. It's a good game.
All right. Very good. So my number 3 favorite game of the year is the first game by this designer that I've liked since, I don't know, Trajan. I've like
Stefan Feld.
because I hate point salad games, and yes, Trajan and Castle Burgundy, which are games that I like, are point salad, but the mechanisms are interesting enough that I enjoy them somewhat. They're not my favorite games by any stretch, but Carpe Diem is probably his first design that he's made that I wouldn't call point salad in, I don't know, 10 years or something. Although I think one of those games, Oracle Delphi, that's more of a race game, so that one's not point salad either, but I heard that game has some mechanical problems, so I might not enjoy that. But Carpe Diem is a very strong, very good tile placement game. And yes, you score points in a lot of ways, but the reason I don't think it's point salad is, like, that's not a game where you can, like, not pay attention and score any points, right? Which is why I won't call it point salad. Like, it's not everything you do in the game will score you points by default. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a focus, if you don't have a goal in mind and you start heading towards that goal, you will get blown out in that game. Yeah. So it is a game that forces you to play to get points, not a game where you can just, like, blindly take actions and still get decent amount of points.
Plus, this game has a lot of unintentional blocking and purposeful blocking, so you have to sort of figure out what people are going to do, because your opportunities to score points is based on, I guess, the area position and your own turn order. And if you don't pay attention to that, then you're going to just, like you said, get obliterated.
Yeah,
So.
It has strong interaction that's not take that interaction, which is the kind of interaction I like in a Euro game. So, excellent game. Ben?
My number 3 is Decrypto. So Decrypto is gamers' version of Codenames. It's a game where there's 2 teams, and each team has 4 words that they know about. So there's 4 words on theirs, and each round there's someone who's a clue giver, and they'll draw a combination of those 4 words in some kind of number code. And then they have to give clues in order for their teammates to guess what those 4 words are, or which 4 words they're trying to get. So the teammates know what the words are, so it would be really easy to clue for them. But the problem is, as you give clues, the other team is also listening to those, and they're going to start trying to guess those words as well. So you have to kind of be a little bit clear so that your teammates can get it, but not too clear so that you create a word profile that the other team can figure out. Overall, it's a really thinky game that kind of really takes a new step on Codenames, and I think it qualifies as the 3rd best game of the year. Which is saying something because it's a word game, but sure.
Yeah. Oh, I really liked that. I liked Trap Words as well. I don't know which I prefer between the 2, but yeah. With families, obviously, you would rather play Codenames, which is just simpler, more straightforward. But if I'm playing with gamers, Decrypto or Trap Words, I think are stronger options, probably.
Yeah.
As stated before, my number 3 game is Cosmic Party Assassins. It's just that stupid. I don't know. This game has everything wrong with it. Shouldn't be good.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's a game where, like, the randomness doesn't hurt it because it is a very short game. It even has player elimination. I don't care. It's like literally a 5-minute game. So it's not like we're totally anti-random. Even Ben, I think, enjoys.
No, it's cute.
Yeah.
So. It says it plays to 6 players. I played with 9. It's good. It's fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
All right.
And you're done.
Okay.
That's all they can say about that.
I mean, it's a great stupid game. You don't want to I shouldn't like this game, right?
Oh, that's fine. It's a fun game.
Yeah,
it's dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. Does it deserve to be in the top 3?
I don't know about that.
No, probably not, but here it is, right?
Yeah.
That's just the kind of year it was, where a game like Costume Party Assassin could be the third best game of the year.
Oh, just wait till we get to my best game.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which is pretty hilarious. All right, my number 2 should be a controversial pick, at least with Ben. I don't think Charles has played it yet, but my number 2 is Root. This is making, I think, most people's number 1, like most reviewers' number 1 game of the year. To me, it's close. I really enjoy playing it. The factions are interesting. The gameplay mechanics, I think, are in general are good. The battle system's kind of simplistic and silly, but it's better than blind bidding for battle. I don't know, the asymmetrical gameplay is just really intriguing. I want to explore all of the different factions many different times, try different strategies with them. It has huge balance problems, but I will give credit where credit is due. They have done extensive balancing. Unfortunately, I have the first printing, so it will not affect my printing of the game, but they're actually making changes on like 3 of the different factions. They're really buffing the lizards, which are currently terrible. They're nerfing the Vagabond a little bit, which is currently the best faction to play, and then they're giving a slight buff to the cats, which is also one of the weaker factions. So I applaud them for taking the time and actually doing some balance updates, because like, what games do that? Very few.
Not
So-
Terra Mystica.
Definitely not. Actually, no, they did,
a lot
and they
of
were
Terra Mystica.
terrible
And they
balance.
make them terrible. Not
No.
terrible.
Look, you either release a game that is good, or you don't release the game. You can't be like, oh, I'm just going to release this game. I know it's horribly, horribly broken. Eventually we'll figure out how to fix it. That, to me, is inexcusable. It just goes back to the biggest disappointment of my gaming career. Viticulture.
Yay.
I mean-
Where they released a horribly, horribly unbalanced game, and they kept trying to balance it and kept trying to balance it. You know what?
And he said,
Balance your game before you release it. And you know
I mean-
what? They're not addressing the biggest problem with the game, which is the card deck.
That makes a reasonable point. You should try to balance, but games are really hard to balance. Like, you can have
if you're bad at game design.
tons of playtesters and you could still release an unbalanced game, which I think is what happened with Root. I don't think they didn't test Root. I just think that it didn't go through the right testers, or they didn't listen to the right feedback, and
See,
it was released unbalanced.
Yeah, I never buy that. Well, maybe not listen to the right feedback, because if I play a game once, and this is not the first time this has happened to me, I play a game once and it's immediately clear how unbalanced the game is. Just like you look at the numbers on the board.
I mean, it does blow my mind, like,
Yeah.
how anyone played the Lizards in their current form and was like, oh, this is fine. Or like Terra Mystica, how did anyone ever play the Darklings and were like, oh, this is totally in line with the other races? Like, I don't see how that's possible,
We're going to
because...
play the Riverfolk in Root, and that's the clan that mathematically they seem like they should win every time to me.
Well, yeah, because...
Unless no one ever plays with them, it's like
we were using
stop.
them in a 5-player game. The Riverfolk are really strong because they make their points trading with other people, so the more
Right.
people you have to trade with, the
Yeah.
better they are.
So they didn't scale correctly. Wonderful.
Anyway,
Yeah, great.
that's my number 2. I think Root's very interesting. It has some major problems. I also agree the card draw is too big of a factor, but in spite of all of its flaws, I think it's a really interesting game, and I really enjoy playing it. So, Ben.
My number 2, and Charles's number 1.
No.
Number 2 also.
Number 2 also.
Underwater Cities.
Yep.
Talked about this in the BGG episode. Terraforming Mars Killer, we all agree on that. Let's not discuss it. Not even discuss it.
I don't think Charles didn't agree on that.
It's just a good game. It's a good game because there's a card deck, but it's not horribly, horribly imbalanced. There's a power differential between the cards, but they tier them. Oh my god, tiering decks so that there's more powerful stuff that comes later. What a crazy idea.
Oh no, but it's not tiered correctly. They're just the same cards that appear in different tiers that are slightly more powerful. They're always in decks 1, 2, and 3. I've actually played it 4 times now since your initial one.
You're ahead of
So
me, but
I'm ahead.
it's fun. You get to build your little city. It's got that little, oh look, I have my little underwater city here.
You know, they agreed on this pick, but they're arguing, so
Yeah.
that's funny.
This,
okay.
this is my thing with Underwater Cities, and I've said it before. Another thing I will reiterate: this game is Kelly Rowland and Terraforming Mars and Beyonce. Together, they make Destiny Child. Destiny Child was a great group, but Kelly Rowland and Beyonce, there's a difference.
I don't.
Kelly.
Okay, well, I don't know who Kelly Rowland is, but to call Terraforming
My
Mars
point
Beyonce is wrong.
exactly. No one is going to know
Look,
what this game is. compared to
Terraforming
others.
Mars is R. Kelly.
No.
Lots of people like him, but for the wrong. He's a very controversial and bad figure, and people should not like him.
Oh my
No.
That is what Terraforming Mars is. If we are to compare him to some kind of pop star,
We cannot use R. Kelly. in
Please
these
don't force me to
comparisons.
cut this section.
Terraforming Mars.
we're not afraid to be controversial.
No. We are not touching that. Terraforming Mars is Beyonce and This is Kelly Rowland. All right, so you don't know who she is, but we're killing R. Kelly right now.
Okay.
All right, so
Well, we'll call it.
the things that are good about this game are very good. All right, I do think it has, a number of systems that are going on. There's a few ways to score. It is tight. You do actively feel like you are building a city and you're competing with people. My ultimate problem with it is only the fact I've played it 3.5 times and I've won it 3.5 times
You
now.
play against me yet?
No, I haven't. But you also don't play Terraforming Mars, and if you do play Terraforming Mars, you will be really good at this game. It is almost a direct skill correlation. Things that come in, your evaluation of cards, your ability to build cities and things on the map transfers over directly in the game. And so you will have a noticeable skill bump on people who have not played a lot of Underwater Cities with this game. It also helps who have played any of Suki's previous games, Last Will and Pulsar 2849. If you play them, you sort of understand how the designer works. You will have an advantage over people who have not. That said, they will still enjoy playing the game. The biggest limitation of the game is the fact that because the cards are not valuated based on anything, you just sort of draw them from the deck. So cards are rampantly away from each other in power. Not like any of these other games, not like Viticulture or Root. Some cards, there are cards that are always useful, but there are some that are just straight up better, and you just put them down because you picked the right color, which is the second biggest portion of the game. There are a lot of actions on the game, but they are cued into your color, and if you are not drawing an even distribution of colors, then you will need to do something to adjust your deck to draw an even distribution of colors. And if those actions don't work for you, you are going to be behind the 8 ball. People who are just getting all 3 of the colors and have that flexibility.
And that's fair. I mean, it's definitely not a perfect game. There's errors in it. I just, compared to all the other garbage that came out this year, it's just at the top of the heap.
Oh, by far, yeah.
Yeah, no question.
I mean, I think this game is a good game, and we're just quibbling over. We're comparing it to one of the best games of the generation in Terraforming Mars. And the fact that,
oh my god, what are you,
Man.
insane? Best game of the generation. It's a Take That game, man. The best game of the generation does not have Take That elements in it. Period.
I mean, there's only a few.
I mean,
that cards.
there's not that
People
many.
that just cheaper, just steals all my titanium production, even though I work super hard to get it.
But they actually have not added that many more, and none of them have protected production. Those are the same cards that are in the game. Anyways, Terraforming Mars is one of the best games of the generation. He might argue against it, but he can't stop the tide. Just like I have to admit
that can't stop the tide of Monopoly either, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Right?
and you can't stop the tide of Gloomhaven. I mean, sometimes people like systems and games, and you just sort of get caught up in them because they're everywhere, and people, so many people do like them, and even you have to admit, like, okay, I see why this game has imitators and why it doesn't. So
I don't have to admit anything.
I admit nothing.
That is correct. However, Underwater City is definitely a game that you should purchase this year. And now to Trey's number one.
Number one.
Wait, no, I got to dump on Underwater Cities.
Oh, you got to dump on it. Okay, go for it. Go for it.
No, I like Underwater Cities. In fact, I think it has some mechanisms that I enjoy more than Terraforming Mars. I like the action selection, but to me, it took too long. Like, our gameplay, and I don't know why, I've been racking my brains because, like, other people have told me they finished in 3 hours.
Oh, sure.
Our game took, like, over 5 hours.
I mean, who are you playing with?
Charles, Elisa, and Jeremy. So not the
so-
not the best group to be
I know,
playing a
people
game
listen
like
to this-
that with.
Hold on, let me just get this straight. You were playing with Elisa and Jeremy, and your game took a long time? I don't buy that. That doesn't seem right.
So yeah, maybe I need to play it with. And honestly, I probably wouldn't play with 4 players again, even with fat players. I think that's like a 3-player game.
It could be good with 3.
Just because your turn will come around faster. And,
Sure.
yeah, so mechanically I think it's good, but I think it's too long for what it is. I mean, it's still fundamentally like Terraforming Mars. It is a card game, so like you're gonna get some luck. Like there were some times where I just had a hand of cards and they were all bad and they didn't work with my strategy, or I needed one color and I had a handful of a single color. Actually, that happened to me like towards the end of the game. Like I kept drawing cards of the one color I didn't care about. Like give me a red card or give me a green card and I'm fine. But like I kept drawing orange or whatever that other color was.
Orange,
Yellow.
And I was like literally either of the other colors, but I couldn't stop drawing the one color I didn't want, and that was just very frustrating. So
No, again, it's not a perfect game. That's the peril of it, But again, the card deck is not even comparable in its unbalancedness to the other games on my bottom 3 list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I do like the game. Definitely try it out, especially if you like Terraforming Mars.
Or Pulsar 2845.
Yeah.
Don't
So
play
it's
that
like-
game.
or-
That game sucks.
No, it
or
doesn't.
Last Will. The games previously made by the designer. So.
All right.
Pulsar 2845 does that.
So
Point salad though.
Yeah. I love point salad.
yeah,
So
my number one of the year. It was my number one of the last episode. So again, I'm not gonna talk about it too much. But I've played this game so much, and it's been successful with every group I've played with. It's just a super fun game, and it's a party game, and it's just one.
Just one what?
Just one
game.
Ah,
To be at
just
the top of
one.
my list.
Which game is it though?
Just one game to rule them all.
Oh, really?
So
it's a Lord of the Rings game?
Yeah, it's a Lord of the Rings party game. It's a great game. It's like trivia, like Lord of the Rings trivia. I'm just kidding, but it's basically multiplayer categories. If you want to hear more about it, just go back and listen to the BGG episode because it was also my game of BGG, and it's also my game of the year. Just an amazing party game. Try it out.
Okay, but Trey, what's the name of the game?
Oh, it just has one name, but I can't think of what it's called.
Okay, so I guess very confusing there. All right, my number 1 game of the entire year 2018, Fruit Ninja Combo Party. Just kidding. That was just
Was that even a game?
It was. I was looking on the list and I saw that's a fun title. No, it's I've not played that. Although the best title I did see in my searching through these pages was Garden of Gardens, which is a really dumb name. So it's like it's fine. No, my number 1 game I talked about during the BGCon episode is Pandoria. It's like someone took Carcassonne and they added a bunch of stuff to it. They had buildings you could build, they had spells you could cast, and they added a vicious element where you can stop other people from scoring. Or you can set up giant zones for yourself and then have those people who are about to score it be eliminated. It's just a fun game where you can be...
Yourself.
Yeah, you can be yourself. You can be the truly terrible person you are inside to other people, but it's fine because that's fun. Pandoria.
You know what game it sounds like? That game we played with the traveling and whatever that we all hated. It's like that old game.
Oh, God, I can't even remember. I'm at a loss.
We played it with Keith. Oh, that game was terrible.
Oh, La Cita?
Yeah, La Cita.
No, it's not as vicious as La Cita. La Cita is a much more vicious game. When I play La Cita, I feel bad about myself. When I play Pandoria, I feel bad for other people. Completely different.
Oh,
Completely
okay,
different.
okay.
Because I get to laugh at them. But then they get to do it to me, so...
All right, Charles.
Number 1 game of the year is Teotihuacan. I don't know. Did y'all get a chance to play this?
Yeah,
You played it, yeah?
I played it at BG.
Okay, so Teotihuacan is a very good game. It's very solid. It's basically the entire game board is a rondel, and you move around dice, and you get to move the dice 1, 2, or 3 spaces. They might power up if you get them high enough, in which case you get to move along the ascension track, which should give you a number of different things. But really, this game is basically the second member of what will be known as the Sulcan family, or Mind Conquest family. It is very much like Sulcan's sibling. You can tell they're from the same parents, but the one thing about it is the fact that they are, though they share those traits, they're really different games, but they're both still very solid individuals in the category. This game, just hits a lot of fronts. I mean, it's a deep Euro. You do have to think about your moves. The ultimate decision is based upon the actions that you're taking. But what you're doing each turn is you're basically just moving a die 1, 2, or 3 spaces, and then trying to do the action on that die. And you might do some long-term planning because as you get more die on a space and higher number die on the space, you will get better actions. And as you move to spaces, your workers advance. They start at level 1. These are 6-sided die. Once they get to level 6, they immediately ascend. And then, much like Sulcan, it has 2 things that are key to Sulcan. One is a temple track. One is a very interesting immediately physically noticeable center point. And Sulcan is the calendar wheels. In this game, it is the temple that you build on. That's sort of 3D. And I mean, it's good. So it makes it's a good game. It attracts people. We play in a public cafe. It always gets people's attention because it just looks so 3D, and it's very solid.
Yeah, it is a very solid game. I like it a lot. It didn't make my list just because it didn't grab me. Like it wasn't like, oh, this is amazing. I can't wait to play it again. But I would play it again, but I don't feel the need to purchase it. But I would. One of the cool things about the game is the board is modular. So like every game you can like change the whole board. And it is kind of innovative in that it's kind of like a worker placement rondel game, right?
Yeah,
because you have
the
like
entire thing is a
several
rondel.
different workers all running around this rondel, and you can choose which one to move. So that's why it feels more like worker placement than a straight rondel game. But at the same time, it's still basically action selection on a rondel. So
Yeah, definitely want to try that. I love rondels.
Yeah. Oh, and the final thing about this game, and one thing it gets the most praise for, is the fact that MSRP is $40.
really,
It is literally one of the
what?
cheapest heavy games you will find in the board game industry
Yeah.
in almost a decade. And usually you can
Yeah,
find
that's
this,
a great deal.
You can find this game for as cheap as like $32 or $34,
Wow.
which is just $6 off MSRP. So it's like insanity in that regard.
The board game market is weird right now because I've noticed like some games are way cheaper than I thought they would be. Whereas like the median price of board games though has risen. Like when I first got in the hobby 10 years ago, it was like $40, maybe $50 if it's a really well done production. Now like 60 is a normal starting MSRP for games.
Right.
If not 70, like I've seen a lot of games
That's crazy.
go to 70.
That's
yeah.
why when I see this game at an MSRP of like $39.95, I'm just like, wow.
I'll also
It's
shout
worth
out
mentioning.
Blue Lagoon, which is like a very nice production for like a Euro game, and it's like a game you would expect would cost $40, and it's $20 on cool stuff. So I would say go buy a copy, but it's already sold out. But I can't wait till they get it back in stock because it's a really good Reiner Knizia game. So check that out. Yeah. Any other thoughts about the year, gentlemen?
Well, I didn't mention the Terraforming Colonies, Mars Colonies expansion, but it's really good. So there you go. Get in there.
You and your terraforming. Look, I think next year will be a better year in many ways. Obviously, 2018, for many reasons, was terrible. They're gonna make some better games next year. It's really hard to compete with 2017 because that was a really good year. A lot of good stuff came out then.
Are there any games y'all looking forward to in 2019?
I'm actually looking forward to Imperial Spells and Steam. I think that might.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who designed that, but I've heard some good things.
I haven't heard anything good about it. I hear it's the designer. He's just way overrated.
Yeah. So I think.
Oh, the Pledge Manager is still open, by the way.
So that is one of the games that I'm looking forward to. I would say I am also looking forward to Caverna. Expansion,
Oh,
the Forgotten
yeah.
Folk.
Caverna expansion looks solid.
So that's going to turn Caverna into Caverna Mystica. So we'll see how that goes with different races on top of it.
Yeah. Look forward to the Gloomhaven expansion.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to Caverna expansion. There's another expansion that's coming out.
Spirit Island expansion.
Oh, that's not coming out till 2020.
Hey, I can help.
I don't know how. I don't know. This is the longest, like, at least they were up front. Like, usually you sign up for a Kickstarter and they're like, we'll deliver in 6 months, and then they deliver 2 years later. This Kickstarter was like, we'll deliver in 2 years. And if it gets delayed beyond that, I'll be shocked. But, yes, we are anxiously waiting the Spirit Island expansion.
It's gonna be awesome.
I believe Freedom the Underground Railroad expansion is finally going to come out this year.
Oh, I didn't even know they were working on an expansion of that.
It's been a while. Oh, and Dominant Species Marine.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming out this year. I'm looking forward to.
I'll
picking
totally
that up.
be down to play that, yeah.
Mm.
The one game, we should talk about, are there any games you didn't play that you thought might have made either your best or worst of list? I think Chronicles of Crime would probably be in my top 3, but we start our campaign in a couple weeks, so you'll be hearing about my impressions shortly.
The funny part is Gaia Project is not on this list for 2018.
Oh, that came out this year too, huh?
I want to
No,
say
it didn't.
it came out in 2017. The end of 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think most people got it in their hands this year.
Yeah, I might have actually played it this year,
Yeah.
but I used BGG to search for 2018 games. And
Yeah, we
Gaia
have to have
Project didn't
rules,
come
man.
out.
We have
Yeah.
to have some rules, but these are all.
Gaia Project would have been my number 1 for this year, for sure, because this year was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit to get our best.
So
Yeah.
it goes.
But I like I said, 2018 is a year of volume. There are a number of games out there, and almost most of the ones you will get are going to be solid, if not exemplary. I mean, this will be the year when you look back on it where you got a lot of games, and in 2020 you're trying to trade them,
Yeah.
or 2019.
I mean, how many 2018 releases are people going to be talking about 5 years from now?
Between 1 and 2, I guess.
Yeah, if that. I'll still be playing just one.
Just one what?
Just one game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Root will still probably be around.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be complaining about that.
I don't think Root will make it. I mean, Coin doesn't tend to last for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It depends on how many expansions they come out for it. Like, people were forgetting about Vast, and then, like, Vast came out with a second edition and an expansion, and so now, like, Vast is being talked about again. But I would say Root is vastly better.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, we should wrap it up.
That called
The
the
jokes
root
are
of
just
all
getting
evil.
bad. Alright,
Let's end this madness.
yes. Alright, so shout out to Punchboard Media, our network, our affiliated network. They have a lot of awesome board game podcasts, ranging from humor to news to anything you want to listen to. So check them out. A lot of great work there. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube and Twitter at Eternally Bored, no underscore. Our website is www.eternallybored.com. And again, Happy New Year. And until
Happy New Year.
next time,
We're eternally bored, so you don't have to be.
Yay!
Bye.